Dear friends, I'm glad to see you all on Feygin Live. It is Tuesday, August 2nd, 10 p.m. Kiev time, and we're doing a regular stream, day 160, with Olexiy Arestovych. Glad to meet you, Olexiy. Good evening. We have over 160,000 watching us live, 12,000 left their likes. My usual ask, all these 160 days, if you want more people to watch us, put the links to that stream in your social media and leave your likes. There are a lot of news at the end of this stream, generally good ones, and we'll know more from Olexiy during the whole podcast. So don't be shy, share that stream to those people who you think should see it, and subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and if you're watching that in English, to the Privateer station if you have not done that yet. Alright, let's start with a general overview, what happened during the last day. I can name two hottest spots on the map. One should look at the area to the south of Bakhmut. Let's zoom in. Hang on, my internet is a little slow. Kadema, Travneva, that area, which is rather difficult. We need to understand that the enemy concentrated their means at that area, and concentration is such a thing when it doesn't really care how many years have you been serving. 150 millimeter shell doesn't care who you are. So it is not easy for our guys there, but they're standing and holding firm, showing what it is to be Ukrainian infantry. Same thing in Kharkov area, in Izum and Siversk, but there is a big concentration to the south of Bakhmut and near Pesky. So general direction from Donetsk to Pesky. So that's another area that is difficult now for our guys, but our command of that sector, let's use the old name, our command did bring some help, and it's starting to level the enemy in response to their activity. But for a couple of days it was very difficult. So at 6 o'clock on this map there is Pesky with the two red arrows towards it. But now there is some help available, and it started to work on the enemy concentration, so they're trying to level them out. That actually made us remember the times in the middle of May when they were leveling us with their artillery, and we didn't really have anything to counter their effort. Right now the situation is different. We do have good means. The problem is that it's a long front and we cannot always guess where they will attack, but once they did, we can respond. And those who particularly worry about these areas, I need to say that help is already there. We're trying to correct the situation, and as always, glory to those who are holding and eternal memory to those who perished. Let's take a look at the south. That's where our troops continue, our equipment, special equipment, continues to target logistics of Russian troops, command posts, fuel depots, ammo dumps. We usually take out about at least 4 positions for valuable targets during every day. And this day we got more data about that train that we leveled. Preliminary estimate is about 80 dead, 300 wounded, but this was just preliminary. Data comes that it's way more than that. There were also troops at the location, and the train with everything on it is completely destroyed, and All the troops that were in the area where they hit the train, they're also gone, so numbers are still pouring in. War is such a thing. One day they hit you, another day you hit them. So that's the general situation on the front. What about Kharkov? Any changes? No. Same situation. They're trying to attack. They hit us. They shell the city, and we attempt to neutralize their attacks and keep them. They're using small groups, trying to target artillery. Random tanks and armored vehicles pass by, trying to shoot our positions, and vice versa. So it's a standard behavior at the front. Both sides are doing that. They call it to nightmare the enemy, so you need to keep them at attention. Both sides are doing that, so both sides are using aviation, by the way. And this is the situation on most of the length of the front, from Kharkov to Kherson. There are only two spots with active action. That's Bakhmut. Siversk is not that active compared to Bakhmut. We cannot say Siversk is completely quiet, but it definitely differs, and not as much as Bakhmut. And that's Pisky, down near Donetsk. In other places, it's more tactical motion without a concentration and possibility to graduate tactical into operative. So the rest of the front is really just nightmaring each other. On Zaporozhye direction, we're actually pushing them down. They are concentrating some resources near Takmak. You can see it on the map at 6 p.m. with a green spot. Not big ones, 3 to 4 tactical groups. And same in Kherson, we're keeping pressure on them, we're pushing them further down south from Davidov Brod. And we noticed a couple places where Russian side got some concentration of troops, so let's see what happens 24 hours later and what the result will be of our countermeasures taken by our command. Alright, so that covers most of it. So in general, what's your estimation? Moscow plans do not really change. They're still moving most of, or noticeable part of their troops to the south and switch to advancement mode. As I mentioned, their target readiness date is 6th to 8th of August, and it doesn't mean that they'll start their attack on these 2 days. They could defer it a little. We are ready, we're preparing, and we'll be meeting them. Alright, we have 302,000 watching us. Over 80,000 left their like. Click the like button. Now let's analyze the intermediate results of what we discussed yesterday regarding the visit of Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan, Taipei. She's there now. She's already meeting, right, with representatives of power in Taiwan. And we did prognosticate yesterday. Me in my streams, you also mentioned that China announced military exercise, called American ambassador, and the general atmosphere, though, regardless of all that, is that China did not follow up, did not follow through with their threats on ballistic missiles and military action. So China decided not to escalate to the point that would cause irreversible harm. So, and I think it is good behavior on behalf of China. All these talks about losing the face, that's just bystanders discussion. I think my point of view is still the same. They probably agreed about something with Biden, with whom Xi Jinping talked for 2.5 hours a couple days ago. China continues to express symbolic upset, and they use some military force without the actual engagement in military hot conflict. But it appears that they probably will get something in return. What do you think about this theory? And also, it appears that Moscow had an interest in that situation. I think you told me that I'm kind of losing it among tons of streams I'm doing, that they lit their TV station basically saying "Je suis Chinese" or something. So here it's really nobody really wants to have a third world war, right? Maybe a few people who are really bored with the Ukraine war would appreciate having another war and having the whole world on fire. But as for negotiations and giving China something, my brief experience in politics tells me that it's pretty difficult to come to actual conclusion. And I don't know, I disagree with you. They could have promised different things. Could be trade agreements, something quid pro quo there. Promising is not marrying, so it's politics. Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's not necessarily really giving anything to China. It's the games predating the November elections in the United States. Democrats need to show something that Democrats can also play significant international roles, not just Republicans are capable of doing that. And I think Americans just pushed through that matter. What do you mean they pushed through? I think they just leaned on that question and pushed in like a good old America. How they built an air route to Berlin after the Second World War, and American planes were just going in and landing. And it appears that the last couple of days somebody moved the curtain away and we could see the good old America that nobody really... that wasn't afraid of anyone and just would have go to fulfill their interests. But, it's kind of hard to analyze it this way. No, Mark, I disagree. All the serious wars that America was engaged in last century, they were mostly instigated or started by Democrats. So you should not really take them off the scale. I think both parties in America are capable of performing during the international conflicts. So I'm just imagining Truman or Reagan. I think Putin would have been kebab a long time ago and would have been consumed with pepper and salt. So it's good to see that America wasn't afraid and did push their issue through. China did not cancel anything. They still were showing some military action and maneuvers. And they did promise, or somebody did comment on the Chinese stance that they might have targeted her plane on landing. But, she still needs to leave that place too. I don't think they'll threaten her. But in any case, I think America, in my point of view, America did show the world who is the superpower again. And there were different rumors and people were talking that China will show that they're the leader and they do how they please. But when the push came to shove, America did again what they used to be doing before. And China, in response, basically saying that this is not a friendly act, will put some ships around and do some maneuvers. But in essence, American allies in Asia did get the message that they can still rely on the United States' help if the time comes. I'm generally I'm appreciative of all the actions happening from Kosovo down to Taiwan. It's like Herbert Wells in his book. The more of these actions happen, the more chances that those people who are asleep will awake. That those people who think now that this is just misunderstanding, that politics is politics and business is business, that Putin will come to his senses at some point, that some of the right-wing supporters who are claiming that it's just a temporary action of Putin, we should have let him take Crimea from Ukraine and it would come down. But I think it's time for the West and the whole world to understand what Putin's regime is. There are a lot of illusions, there are a lot of deceit that were being used by guys like Saddam back in history, same as Chinese Communist Party that are holding Uyghur people hostages, 250 million people of them, and experimenting on them. It's important, in my view, to having given the world a memory that there are big, strong, good guys in the world who can do things as they promise they'll do. And today we saw part of it when an airplane, despite of all the threats, just flew through, reached Taiwan and landed and said, well, that's what we do. I was expecting that they might bring Nancy in a submarine or something that's difficult to shoot down. They picked the airplane. Airplane is not the best transport in times of military action. True, but Nancy probably remembers how it was during the Cold War and the times when America didn't really care about Russia that much and was defending its interests around the world. So I think they're somewhat showing that again. And by the way, they also liquidated a leader of Al-Qaeda, al-Zawahiri. They did liquidate him in Kabul, and that's where the official headquarters of Al-Qaeda was, supposedly. So that's kind of a combination of two-step. Now, back to Russia, their propaganda was active, starting with Russians and Chinese are brothers forever. We're close peoples who will stand shoulder to shoulder. Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs is flying to Myanmar, where the regime is pretty wild, but these days they're not too much wilder than Moscow regime. And there were discussions in Moscow that if the whole world will catch fire, we probably will have a chance to finish Ukraine while America is busy with other countries. But as you mentioned yesterday, America's doctrine is not shying away from controlling two or participating in two or more war theaters around the world. But as a result of all these events unfolding, can they affect Moscow in a bad way? Yeah, let's take a look at it. How do you mean? Remember they did a social research for Kremlin, an internal one, which had a goal to estimate motivation and support of Putin. So, interesting point. The group that did not like Putin and thought he's a criminal, they thought China is against Russia. The ones who supported Putin also thought China is a friend of Russia. And their mythology was going that we understand that we may not be an equal to America, but China is a big ally, and when it will be involved in the conflict, we'll see how the China kicks American ass, will spit into American's flag, burn it, and maybe honk passing by an American embassy in Moscow. Because fighting with an old, brutal power like China, all that LGBT West will not hold its own. Moscow's next step was, we will threaten you in Europe, and following being friend with China, will take everything we want in Europe. Remember Putin's position, who kind of was stating that everything is according to the plan, there is a big ally on our side, and all these Russian strategists who were screaming about the first or the second economy of the world, and China showing America how to achieve their goals, and will push America out of the theater in Asia. So here is the situation. America created that situation. They said, we are flying to Taiwan. A lady is flying, and she flies in, lands where she wants to, and talks to whom she wants to. And America, to make it more confusing for China, said basically, we consider Taiwan to be part of China. Just like Hong Kong was a territory of China. But you guys do want to repress and oppress everybody and kill some people, and until you're ready to integrate them in a civil way, we'll be on guard and support Taiwan as an ally, so you don't exercise any repressions. But otherwise, it is part of an ancient China, of course. It's just we trying to prevent you from cutting and killing a lot of people when you take it. So we've been protecting it, and we continue to. And you can object if you don't like it. So I was actually delighted with that event. It was a good event for my birthday. Oh, it's too early. It's too early, Olexiy. We'll talk about your birthday tomorrow. Still, time zones and stuff, it's almost my birthday. It's just nice to feel that all those barking propagandists in Russia who are saying China and Russia will show the world how to create new world order, and now they're face planted. And then we have Nancy Pelosi flying to Taiwan and landing where she wants to without any issues. And what? By the way, here's the notion from China. They already sent an official letter saying they're not planning to use any nuclear weapons during any conflict. And that's not everything. There are also negotiations with the General Secretary of the United Nations about complete nuclear disarmament, or at least severe disarmament. And Americans suggested to Beijing and Russia, all right, let's decrease the number of nuclear warheads and put a stricter control over that. So they kind of showed, in a way, a mini Caribbean crisis with China. Do you really want to start a third world war because of these visits? Then how about we also start maybe controlling nuclear warheads stricter now? What if we get back to the table and discuss that matter? All right. In any case, I would add here that Kadyrov, in his manner, you know him, he did make a statement that we'll see 15 minutes before Nancy's airplane lands which country is a superpower. I think he was writing that tweet in the hope that Americans will backpedal their decision to fly in and Chinese will do something, but nothing happened. So now he said half the phrase, he needs to continue that. And yeah, I think I followed that. He's followed it with like, it's an old lady who wants to shoot her. Right, it's not about the granny, everybody understands. I'm not particularly fond of the phrase toxic masculinity, but these guys in Russia trying to play that very primitive, provincial, macho, on a level of, I don't know, some small village tough guys. I kind of remember an old anecdote about that. There is a small village, a square, police, post office, and there's a bunch of guys revving their bikes. And then another one comes over, shakes everybody's hand. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello. Oh, yes, hello. And you, hello. Has Michael been here? No. Okay, then. Bye, bye, bye. So that kind of masculinity follows a bunch of artificial thingies. So in this case, it's actually nice that this was a lady who flew. That was a double hit and all that silly machoism. All right. Next one, let's take a look at Medvedev. We're talking about that crazy one? Yes. His crazy tweets are still making news. I was given as an example Hariri, one of the well-known Israeli philosophers. He stated, and I did read his book, but he did say that you guys are wrong not listening to what Moscow politicians are saying. You need to listen to them because what they say, they actually sincerely believe in that, and they express their intentions with that. They're not even hiding them. We don't really pay attention to their phrases, but they're actually basically saying their truth. One guy named Arestovych said the same thing quite a few months ago. Yeah, there was one like that, exactly. So, that philosopher wrote a post in Vkontakte, in Russian social network. He wrote that, then somebody probably kicked his butt and he removed it. Perhaps somebody towards Kremlin or links to Kremlin pushed him to say that, to take it out, because that's... This post also had a notion about Kazakhstan, that this is not a real country, and oh yeah, there is no Georgia, no Kazakhstan, no other countries, just Russia that is trying to take all the lands back. Yeah, so somebody did push this guy and he removed the post, and after that one of his comments was, yeah, he's probably getting beaten up now. Frankly, speaking of Medvedev, I think he's living through the crumbling down of his personality. His wife is leaving him, and remember that picture recently with the Calvin Klein pants sticking from over his trousers, under the shirt? Yeah, this is the guy who tried to pull his sports pants up to his armpits to look a little tougher. And I think he just did not really pull them up. He kind of sunk into them while doing it. Yeah, so the deterioration of personality from the psychoanalysis standpoint basically is a good thing, because what sober person thinks about, Medvedev speaks about. So he, in essence, his post was right. He's talking about their ambitions to restore good old USSR, or good old Soviet Empire, and that all these countries like Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, they have no right to exist as separate entities, because we spilled our blood for them, and that means they're part of our territory. This was historically occupied and a part of Russia. Joseph Stalin, Nicholas II. And that's exactly how they should be understood and how they should be treated. You know, what's interesting here is that bridge to Ukraine and situation with Ukraine and the war. Kazakhstan is very patient. They're patiently suffering all the arrows that Putin throws at them. But imagine if their president Tokayev would visit Kiev, shake hands with Zelensky. Well, presidents don't fly just because. Even for symbolic support, I wouldn't think so. They would probably meet if there is some well-set policy between two countries, or some politics going on. But there is a problem that Kazakhstan has a very strong Chinese influence, and I suspect, not that because they depend upon China, but they want to play it carefully. I don't think they'll just come and visit Kiev. And we know that in general, in Kazakhstan, folk people on the ground, they do support Ukraine. They support us by sending us food, medical supplies, and other things. And they also had enough power to resist Kadyrov when he was posting something in their regard. So that's what's important. Kazakh people, they like us and they want to support us, and we feel the same thing to them. Presidents are a secondary thing. They come to sign certain agreements and treaties. They're functionaries. So whenever we have a program ready to be signed, then probably yes. They probably will meet. But what else can we sign at this point? I think this is some agreement that needs to be worked through. We already have some good relations. There's got to be a good breakthrough to sign, and we need to figure out some politics behind it. So I don't think they'll come and meet until then, but once we get our ideas together, there probably would be a good opportunity to. And frankly, their president already showed what he thinks. On Petersburg Forum, he already mentioned that they do support territorial integrity of Ukraine. They're against any occupation. So they're pretty tough guys. All right, I'm trying to go through comments. Xi Jinping commented in the style of victory of the Communist Party. Well, yeah, one needs to understand that he's got elections coming soon, even though their elections is a separate situation. But with the lack of proper estimating, one can say that there could be a good internal option for a shift. And by the way, they do have a progressive prime minister who is supporting development. And in order to push certain parties in the right direction, push certain elements in the right direction to achieve your result. But it's very delicate in regards to Chinese systems. So we've been about 32 minutes live, 430,000 watching us, a third left their likes. So Americans implemented more sanctions today. It looked a bit delayed, but they did include Kabayeva, Putin's civil partner or wife or whatever. We know what we were talking about. And against 5 billionaires oligarchs, Rushnikov, Guriev, Melnichenko, Polpansky, and Skolkovo Fund, supported by Medvedev. And I think the next one is against the member of the Federation Committee. So let's ask this way. How intensive is the sanction work going right now? The one that precedes all these sanctions implementations. The one that's related to commission, to McFall's commission. Is there a hand from Bankova Street? Of course, there is their input into this process. They reported we have about 70+% of design sanctions implemented. So for McFall, that's a matter of honor and personal influence, and he wants to really do it right, and he's doing it in a very engaged mode. We have several people from our side who know the logistics. There are a few people from American side, just as smart and trained. And they do have a commission that actually add their soul to this situation. They feel like it's their personal case. And we can follow about the sanctions. It's a whole other subject, but in general, they're a bit slower. And Russian oligarchs are trying to avoid that, or, step out of that situation with their money. But the day before yesterday, Andrei Yermak did describe a lot in his Telegram channel. And here I would say everything is following the plan. Alright, 35.5 minutes, 441,000 watching us. Tomorrow we'll have a special stream. It'll be 10 p.m. A special one. Please gather together with Olexiy Arestovych. We'll do a unique one, and we do have a little surprise. We'll have it, but we're still figuring it out. We'll announce in the morning how and when that surprise will appear on Feygin Live. Finishing the subject of sanctions, I need to announce a piece of news, an important one. Everybody knows about a guy named Shari, who lives in Spain now, who fled Ukraine and used to be a congressman there, and there was recently a criminal investigation started against him. Basically, it's a pedophilia case. National police is investigating that person. Obolon Police Department. Here's a front page they sent me about this case. These things have started back in 2017. This is the writ from the criminal cases that has a register of number of a criminal case against Shari, number of the dates when it started, from 29th of July 22. So I want to say here that he was tolerated for a long time. Since 2017 that case was started and then delayed, and we do have reasons to think that some of the materials and faces who got in the hands of Ukrainian police, we don't know all details, but we suspect they gave or provided some data. And I was always insisting that in the system of criminal investigation, they do have more data than they are revealing. So now we're waiting from Obolonsky police and operative services that this case will actually see the day in court and will help us answer the question about the accusation and finishing of that criminal case and his extradition from Spain and delivery to Ukraine for imprisonment. It's important, and using this tribune, I ask everybody who is watching us, I know there is some data, I know there is some information somewhere, please send that to Obolon Police or to me. I'll forward it to them. All materials that you're aware about. The case was started. There are time limits for when the next step has to concur, so we'll wait for the criminal organs of Ukraine to make a next step. His life, I think, will be changed now. And I hope as a result of this investigation, one can say officially who that person is, so you can call him legally a pedophile. But let's wait till that concludes. Last thing I wanted to say, there is an English language site of our streams with Olexiy Arestovych. They go live daily. They already have about 100 videos. A dedicated person in the United States who is translating us rather quickly. His channel is rather small. It only has about 1,000 viewers at this moment. And we understand those people who are really interested in the situation. They're probably subscribers. But each of you probably has some English-speaking friends whom you want to share our message with. And that was a very often request to us. How about the English subtitles? This is, I think, better. It's a synchronous translation. You don't even need to read. You just turn it on and listen to what Feygin and Arestovych are talking about. So please send the links to that channel as well. We'll add that link under our video so that everybody could listen to and watch our streams in English. All right, thank you, Olexiy. We shall congratulate you in a special way tomorrow. Today is just preliminary. There is one more day to live to tomorrow. Again, all of those who view us, watch us tonight, send the links, subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and if you have not done so, subscribe to the Privateer station in English. Big thanks to the guys for mentioning us. See you all.